Welcome back to Norton Man Reviews, everyone, and happy Halloween. I hope you're having a great holiday so far. This might be like early in the morning, you might be watching it late at night. Hopefully, you're doing something fun and festive on this holiday. In the spirit of the Halloween holiday, we are going to be looking at one of my all time favorite graphic novels, one of my all time favorite comic book stories, Batman the Long Halloween. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and we're going to do this kind of unique and fun. I mean, this is a big, thick book. There's 13 chapters in it. And that's a lot to go through, but we're not going to be looking at all that today. We're only going to be looking at one chapter. We're only going to be looking at the Halloween. We'll edit this out. What we'll be doing is there's 13 chapters, and for those who don't know, this story takes place over the span of 1 year. That's why it's called The Long Halloween, because the first issue starts on Halloween, and every issue is a holiday, like a major holiday. It goes through Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, you name it. All like the holidays for every month for the whole year, and the last issue, the 13th issue, ends up back on Halloween. So, in spirit of that, we are going to be doing these on every holiday. So you'll see this episode on Halloween tonight, and the next issue, the episode where we do that, you won't see until Thanksgiving. We'll see how it goes. That's kind of what I want to do. But we're going to be in this for the long Halloween. So we'll see when we get to issue 13 a year from now how it's going, if I've done anything different with the setup or how I do things, if I've improved or not. But that's going to be my goal. So let's talk about this story a little bit. Written by Jeph Loeb and art by Tim Sale. Tim Sale, as an artist, we're going to be talking a lot about his art and how it is just so uniquely perfect for this story. We'll be pointing out things about his art style, about the choices he makes. And I think he's it just says artist, Tim Sale. It doesn't talk about pencils and ink, so I'm assuming he did both. And then you have somebody else doing the colors, and we'll see. I mean, I don't know whose idea it was on some of the choices of the colors, but we'll talk about it a little bit as it goes. But the colors are very muted, like almost flat, just doing the flats almost. Not a lot of brightness to this story, as like a Batman comic shouldn't be. It should be dark and gothic and disgustingly decadent. But Tim Sale, I mean, he's passed away, and he's such a good artist. This isn't my first exposure to him. This is when I really recognized him. My first time seeing him, which I didn't realize till later, he did a 2-part story with Wolverine and Gambit, which I actually have. And I had pulled those out. We might look at those sometime. But I don't know his career trajectory and how he got from there, working for Marvel to DC and all that kind of stuff. But this was kind of, I think, what his breakout role was. This storyline was hugely popular at the time. I didn't read it as it came out. I remember hearing about it and reading about it in Wizard and all that. But it wasn't until years later, I had just always been hearing about it, and I bought this book. And one of the reasons why it's my favorite is it's a mystery. Like, there is a killer going on that Batman is trying to figure out and stop. And you'll be guessing on the killer's identity, if you don't know, up until almost the very end. It's such a good mystery. It's very intriguing. And when I was reading this, I actually almost called in sick to work. I've never done that. I've done that for movies and, even video games. I've never done that for a book or a comic book. I'm like, that comic book's going to be there, or it's a quick, you read one issue and you're done. This, I'm like, oh my God, I just want to keep reading it. I was reading up to the moment like I had to literally leave, and I almost called in sick. But I didn't, but I thought about it. Jeph Loeb is the writer. Wait, no, let's go back to Tim Sale. So this was like the first thing one of the major things that broke him out into a major star. And then he went on to do a whole bunch of other things. They did a follow-up, both these guys did Dark Victory. They did a spin-off called, for Catwoman, called When in Rome, I think. And then, he went and did some stuff for Marvel. He did, first he did Superman for All Seasons. My brother Rob talked about that book on his channel. I've never read that, but my brother Rob, he really enjoyed that. He had a lot of good things to say about it. I'm sure about the art too. Tim Sale also did, Daredevil Yellow, Hulk Gray, Spider-Man Blue for Marvel. I'm sure he's done a lot of other things. And his art style, while not flashy, really sets the tone for this story. Jeph Loeb, I think he's kind of a hit or miss kind of a writer. He'll always be one of my favorite writers just based on this book alone. He did Batman Hush, which was extremely popular with Jim Lee. We'll be looking at that some point. But he also did stuff in the Ultimate Universe that wasn't too great. I think he did Ultimates Volume 3 that Joe Mad drew. I think, again, my brother did that. I think he was the writer on those. That wasn't a great story. And he did Ultimatum, if I remember correctly, which was kind of the killer of the Ultimate Universe. Who knows if I'll probably get to that eventually. Robert will probably also look at that. But Batman Long Halloween. Great writing by Jeph Loeb. Awesome art by Tim Sale. So let's get into the book. After I've been yammering on for 7 minutes. 8 minutes almost? No, that's 7. Fuck. Jesus. Get into the book. All right. So, this is all kind of cool. I like the black and white stuff that they do here. Just kind of setting up the graphic novel. There's forewords and all sorts of other stuff dedicated to, Archie Goodwin. Feels like that should be a name I should know. Talk about it here. You can read this, screenshot it if you want. I'm not going to go into it too much. So here we go. Chapter 1. And usually all the other chapters are, the chapter title is the title of, the holiday they're on. So chapter 2 is going to be called Thanksgiving. This one is just called Crime. But it's the Halloween issue. So here we got, this guy, I believe in Gotham City. And if you don't know, this is Bruce Wayne. And just look at this opening image here. It's heavily shadowed. There's so much black. There's very little detail into it. It probably didn't take him very long to draw, but just the impact of just this one image is kind of eye-catching. And the way it's worded with the writing, I believe in Gotham City, you're just like kind of hooked. There's no outline on his arm here, but you can see where it goes, holding his hat. You just know he's in here, and with like the window here in the background, just all in black. His eyes heavily shadowed, the shadow under his nose, not a lot of detail. But he knows when and where to put the shadows and when he needs to put backgrounds. I talk about that a lot. Good artists know when and where they need to put detailed backgrounds. Sometimes he's just like, don't need it here, But that's a great opening image. And this, I believe in Gotham City, this motif, this phrase, I believe, that's going to keep coming back into later issues. So there's Bruce Wayne here, and he's talking with somebody, and he's at some kind of party. And this is a crime family, Carmine the Roman Falcone. Now, why this book is also heavily influential in other Batman projects, in Batman movies. We're going to point out a bunch of these. Like I saw a bunch of it in The Dark Knight, and even more so recently, the latest Batman. They called him Falcone in The Dark Knight. I said Falcone, and I think that's how they're pronouncing it in the Batman and the new Penguin series, which is, I just watched the first episode so far. I'll probably I'll get more into that, but that show is dealing heavily with some of the characters in this. Carmine the Roman Falcone, and he's a big mob boss, and this is his family, and there's a wedding going on, and it kind of talks about, and this is a Bruce Wayne or Batman's inner monologue. And they're talking about, there's this one guy, Johnny, and it's his wedding, and he was at one time going to like turn state's evidence or something like that, but suddenly he changed his mind and he's marrying some woman, and the Roman, they call him Carmine the Roman Falcone, the Roman, he's like footing the bill. And then they also mentioned this guy Richard Daniel. We'll talk about him later. But Bruce Wayne is like, I'm only here out of respect for my parents. He doesn't really want to be there. And who is he talking to? Well, there's Carmine Falcone, the Roman. And I always remember this image right there. This always stuck out to me. Again, not heavily detailed. I mean, there's more detail back here, setting up like what's going on here. But not a lot of detail, not a lot of backgrounds, right? Just heavily shadowed, setting the mood. And I always thought this was a kind of a cool image. You see the 3 scratches, and that's kind of a mystery of where and who gave him those. But Bruce Wayne and Carmine, they're talking about some kind of deal that Carmine wants to be part of. But Bruce is like, I don't want to be part of this. I'm only here out of respect. But, don't get me involved. I don't want to do whatever is going on. And he's like, okay, whatever. We'll enjoy the party. Cool down shot. And Carmine is talking to one of his, I don't know if it's a family member or henchman, and they're like, it would have been nice if Bruce Wayne would have been in on this deal that they're trying to do, but they have enough votes that he doesn't need to be part of it. It's something about like the Bruce Wayne's company and like the board members are going to be voting on something, but here's like Bruce Wayne, Batman, being sneaky. He's still listening in on what they're listening. And then somebody comes up behind him, need any help? Alberto Falcone. This is the son, it says the good son of Carmine. Now he was in the first episode of The Penguin, and spoilers for that show if you haven't been watching. He gets killed off pretty quickly in the show. He was portrayed as kind of the heir to the Falcone crime family, kind of a suave character in that show. Here, he's not so much. He's kind of a wormy, weird kind of guy. But, he's like, hey, do you need help? And Bruce Wayne, as Batman, he knows oh, I'm looking for the bathroom, got turned around. And he's like, oh, it's down the right. So he heads off, and there's just this image of Alberto's face. And that's an interesting choice. Just the eyes and the nose, kind of very artistic. And I like that, putting that there. That kind of alludes to something, for this character. So, and then who else is there at the party? Selina Kyle. There's Catwoman right there. She doesn't know Bruce Wayne is Batman. He doesn't know she's Catwoman, but there's still that relationship there, right? So they dance. This is kind of cool. I like this in the silhouette, them dipping her down, the people in the background. And there's a couple of people here. This is the mom of the guy who's getting married. And it's the sister of Falcone. And they're kind of talking about who's that dancing there. And they're like, oh, that's Bruce Wayne. Just kind of talking about it. And again, Batman's inner monologue, talking, saying Selina Kyle suddenly leaving has lost its urgency. He's like, for a moment, he's all about being Batman, getting the job done. But for a moment, he kind of lets himself have a little joy. Goes back in, Alberto, Carmine, they're kind of chit-chatting about everything. And he's like, look at my sister out there, her. And he's like, if anything ever happened to me, look at her first. And he's telling that to Alberto here. And he's like, oh, don't talk like that. But then as they're chit-chatting about stuff, the henchman here is like, hey, you want to check out this? And it has like some kind of computer screen. And again, this is like a cool window. There's a lot of detail in that, even though it's very simple and it gets the point across. He's like, look at this. And they're looking at something on a monitor through a security camera, and they say Dent, Harvey Dent. He's like, yeah, he's in the garage. So this, if you weren't aware, this story takes place very early on in Batman's career. I would say, I mean, after, like, if we were to put some of the major storylines as canon, as like the main continuity of Batman, you know, you could throw in Batman Year One as like the beginning, right? This would be probably like Year Two. There's not a lot of, I mean, there's the criminal element, especially the rogues, Joker, and those kind of villains, we're gonna see, but they're not as much of a threat yet in this world of Gotham. It's all about the mob right here. So you can see it's Harvey Dent. He's a normal guy. He's not Two-Face. We'll see what happens with him. So Harvey's down there. He's the DA or whatever, and he's kind of talking to himself like, this isn't a good idea. If you had any sense, you'd be at home. Somebody whacks him upside the back of the goddamn head, and he falls down. And this is kind of interesting. I think these might be pictures. I don't know. It's just maybe a choice to show him like falling unconscious. You can see like they lose the color here, and he blacks out. But they, you know, someone says like sticking your nose in. There will be days you stick it in too far, and then something about, they mention that wife of his. He blacks out. He comes to. There's Bruce and Selina, and they're like, oh, it happened by. And again, more talking. Dent doesn't know who he is. He's like, okay, but you society takes, you can do, just go do what you want to do, and we'll leave the hard work to some of us others. So it's kind of giving him some attitude there. This is always kind of a cool shot with a shadow underneath this bowler hat that he's wearing, or whatever it is. Cool looking, right? A lot of dead space here, but it's okay. It kind of tells the story, kind of puts you in like you falling out of consciousness and coming back to. So there they go, and you know, Selina's still trying to get in on that Bruce, you know, get some Bruce loving. Sexy dress, sexy image of her, but you know, I'm sure he wants to, but he's playing like the goofy card, like, oh, it's late even for me. He's yawning, and she's like, you're a loss. I like this, how they draw, Tim Sale draws Catwoman with her black hair, and I was doing something recently in my own comic where a lot of times you'll like give highlights and you'll show like texture and stuff of the hair, but when it's like kind of some black hair like this, a lot of times there'll be a shine and you'll see like some highlights. But it's also cool just to have it straight black, which is something I've done kind of recently with a character of mine. And that's what they're doing here. Cool stuff. So now, suddenly, we cut to Jim Gordon. Commissioner Gordon. I think he's commissioner at this time. Nope, he's a captain. It says Captain Gordon. So again, that shows you how early in the career it is for all these people. And I like that a lot of these major characters, aside from, you know, Bruce Wayne kind of has a introduction there. Falcone has kind of a cool introduction there, but, you know, Dent, that's his introduction. And then Commissioner Gordon, he's just kind of there. But, you know, he's always a major player. So Dent comes in and talks. They're talking about like, oh, it looks like you've been hit. It's like, yeah, I was at the wedding. And it's like, okay, you need to stop taking like needless chances. And they're having this discussion about how the mob is just like fucking everything up. Like they're just too much for the police and the DA to handle. And Commissioner Gordon says, I have a friend who wants to help. So we go back to the party, and Batman's inner monologue, he's saying he noticed a safe in Falcone's study when he was there. So you see this bat, and this silhouette of a bat. And it's like Bruce Wayne couldn't look at the safe, but there's an alternative. Shows Falcone here. I'm not really sure why. So there's a silhouette with the ears and everything, and it gets closer to the safe. But then this hand reaches out, and it's like, who is this? No, that's not Batman right there. He's in the back. And as they're about to grab something, jewels, money, gold, whatever, there's also this journal right here. Batman says something, and it's Catwoman. Cool double page spread. Batman in his glory and Catwoman in hers. And Batman, again, his inner monologue. He's like, this is the first time our paths have crossed inside this penthouse. I don't know what he's referring to before. But, she's like, I don't have time for this. She doesn't want to have to fight him. Her mind is focused on something different. They don't start fighting right away because they're not like at each other's throats. This is a cool shot of Batman, this down angle. Again, doesn't need a lot on the floor. Doesn't need to show texture on everything, which is something I wouldn't think of. I work in just black and white with no colors. And in that, I feel like a lot of times you do need to put more. When you have color and can artistically make the choice of when to exclude color, you can get away with stuff like this, I feel. But cool down shot with the cape and everything. Batman's like, I'm here, but I'm not here for you. But she doesn't believe me. They get in each other's faces. And then suddenly the mob, the goons or whatever, they come in, they start blasting away at them. And I love this shot of Batman just throwing this like smoke bomb. You don't need to show him like taking out of the utility belt or anything like that, getting it ready. You just know that he's prepared. And you don't need, like, he doesn't need to put in some action lines. I'd probably put that stuff in. If you get the right pose for someone, you can feel the movement. And you can feel the movement there of him just swinging that arm and the smoke grenade being thrown. So smoke is filling the room. These guys are shooting blindly. Batman's taking these motherfuckers out because that's what the goddamn Batman does. And Falcone is there. Yeah. Carmine is here. And he's pissed off. Like, my home where my children sleep on my nephew's wedding day. And he comes in after everything has happened, and looks like Batman and Catwoman busted out here. And he's like, what the fuck happened? It's like Catwoman and Batman. Carmine's pissed off. Spread the word, $1 million for either of them, the bat or the cat. And there's just pointing out these 3 scratches again. So here we go. Batman, Catwoman, chasing each other. Again, look at this city. This up-looking angle. It's from down low, looking into the sky, and has these buildings. No fucking detail on these buildings. It's just black silhouettes in the night sky, and there's not like stars everywhere that you can see. That's just a cool image, and again, not littered with words. This is like an example of like the writer allowing the art to tell the story. Rob and I probably mentioned it too, like where some writers just feel the need to litter the page with words because they're the writer. You got to put something in. You got to make the reader feel like they're getting their money's worth. But when you do it right, man, like fewer words can speak more than most. Picture's worth 1,000 words, kind of a thing. It's that pose works, I guess. That face, I'm not going to say it looks bad. It looks kind of funny, but that's his style. And again, it's perfect for this story, in my opinion. So he's chasing her, like they do, chasing her across rooftops. That's what Batman and Catwoman does. That's what I did to Catwoman in that Batman and Robin video game, if you watch me. So he's almost going to catch her, but he doesn't for whatever reason. And she makes a getaway, and she gives him the slip somehow. I don't know if can you do that to Batman? I thought he was better than that. Maybe he's young and, it's for the sake of the story. He loses her. And as he's kind of looking for her in the background, in this night sky, is the bat signal. Again, like, just black silhouette. They're jumping off a bridge and just her silhouette there. Really good use of the detail they can put in here and then don't need it there. I mean, even this. Like, look at this stuff. Like, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on here sometimes. But again, it works. So, up on a rooftop, there's Dent and Gordon. And they got the bat signal going. They're like, how much longer? And Gordon's like, it takes as long as it needs to. And they talk about their marriages and about having to do this job. And, it's like, it sucks. It takes a toll on them, but it needs to be done. I like this, like, 2 panels, in one kind of a thing right here. And then suddenly Batman's here. And it's like, gentlemen. And this, again, Batman, Gordon, Dent, meeting, discussing, making plans together on a rooftop. Dark Knight, man. They took it from this book. I don't know if it's been in other things. It probably has been, but this is, to me, like when I saw The Dark Knight for the first time, 2008 or whatever it was, I was like, immediately thought of Long Halloween. And they start making this agreement, like, we need to take down the Roman Empire, as they call it, Carmine Falcone's mob empire. And there's going to be some lines they need to cross and some lines they can't, and they're just kind of making an agreement of like what they need to do. They need to work together and use Batman's help. Basically the same kind of stuff they did in the movie, right? Trying to take down the boss. They talk about how his money will buy witnesses, buy a cop, buy judges. It's going to be hard. And Gordon here, he's like, I want to make one thing clear. Like, in our zeal to bring him to justice, we can bend the rules, but we can't break them. Otherwise, how are we different from him? And they both agree, of course. And he agrees here. And there's the three in their agreement of working together, but doing it the right way. And suddenly Batman's gone. He's like, he's gone, yeah. And he does that, annoying, isn't it? And left behind is this journal, or it's a ledger. This is Batman somehow swiped it while they were in here. This is the journal that was right here in the safe. And in this commotion here, Batman swiped it. And it has a lot of like information. Dates, dollar amounts, all that kind of stuff for these guys to use. Now, I don't remember, did it say where this was? When did this start? I mean, this is the Halloween issue, but it doesn't start in October. As we can see here, it goes July, and we're at the monthly board meeting of the Gotham City Bank, which Bruce Wayne is a part of. And he's trying to stop this deal that they're doing here. And this guy, who they mentioned earlier, he's in this party. This guy right here, Richard Daniel. He's there kind of headlining it, making sure this deal goes through. And Bruce, as Bruce Wayne, not as Batman or anything, he's like, we know where the Falcone family comes from. Gambling, racketeering, drugs. He's like, we shouldn't be doing business with them. He's like, well, that's a lot of accusations. He just works, he made his fortune in selling shoes. And these guys are like all agreeing. Business is business. The bank could use the millions that Falcone Imports wants to be here. And Bruce is like, no, it's dirty money he wants to launder here. And he's like, I will not and cannot allow this to happen. And then we go to this scene. It says, somewhere in the city, I know the Roman is smiling. That's going to come back a few times. So it doesn't say when, but we know like some time has passed, and it's Richard Daniels' penthouse. Far more luxurious than one could afford on a bank president's salary. And he's yelling to his wife or whoever, they're going to get they're going to a reservation, and then suddenly somebody says something behind him. There's a shadow cast on him. He freaks out, and there's who we are assuming is Batman. We can guess it's him. He's like, the Falcone money, keep it out of the bank. That's all they do. And then there's just this little shot here in a circular panel, much like this one. And it's of the Gotham Gazette newspaper. It says, Bank Chief Daniel resigns, Bruce Wayne to head. So, Bruce, they stopped that deal. Carmine's fucking pissed. And he's like, I want that bank rat dead. And they're just... And here's Maroni. I forget his first name. He was in The Dark Knight also, and he's like the number 2 guy for Falcone. And he's trying to yeah, I told you, no bank will touch us now that this guy's resigned. And he's like, shut up if you're not part of the problem. All the other families are looking at them weird. You kind of fucked up. We look weak. And he mentions here that he's like, where's that nephew of mine, the guy who just got married at the beginning of the book? He's like, he's been in Italy on honeymoon. He's like, I want him back here. So I think that's him returning on this plane. We go now. So, okay, we were in August. We were in July. Now it's August. Now it's September. So here's Richard Daniels. There's that bank dude. And he's with his wife or whoever. Night on the town. In Paris, it looks like. And someone yells out to him in a car. This guy shoots. He's dead. They killed this guy here. Somewhere in the city. I know the Roman's laughing. Again, a circular panel. So, now we cut to this scene. And if you'll take notice that it's suddenly in black and white. And there's this gun. I don't know what kind of gun that is. It's not a very big gun. It's kind of small. Handles taped up. And puts it in a vice grip here. And has a saw, or I don't know what you call it, but it's in some kind of workbench here, right? You see the tools back there? There's a serial number here. And it saws it off or scratches it off. What's the term for this? Yeah, and so the serial number on this gun is gone. And there's person has gloves on, so you can't really see who it is. And then there's, what is this? It's a baby bottle nipple. What's the significance of that? Right? Well, there's a baby bottle nipple in the home of Jim Gordon. And he's doing his husband, family thing, doing dishes, and gets a call. And Gordon gets the word. He's like, oh, God. He's like, oh, I'll call Harvey. And so, now we're at Harvey's house. This is his wife. Gilda is her name. And she's like, Harvey, are you down there? And there's Harvey. And let's just take a moment to notice where he's at. Here. Okay? And it's like Jim Gordon just called and Richard Daniels been murdered. And the wife, she's scared. She's like, one of these days, I'm going to get a call and it's going to be you. His wife here is very scared and frightened for what's going to happen to Harvey. He tries to comfort her. So, like this panel, we go into this where it's no color, black and white. So it's in a faucet, water going down, it looks like a tub. Turns it off, this guy steps in, and this is the guy who got married, Johnny, I think his name is. At the very beginning, he got married. He's back now, I guess, I don't know where he's at. He gets in this tub, and then this light opens, and it seems like what this is supposed to represent is a door opening. A hand pokes through with that gun and shoots. And there he is dead. That's the first murder in the Long Halloween. You see the gun there, 2 bullets left. The nipple which was put onto the end of the gun, and some kind of like weird ornament or decoration signifying the holiday, Halloween. And that's very striking image with the red, the blood and the water. Every time you see a murder by the holiday killer, as they call him, it's going to go from color to this black and white. That's when you know something is going to happen. So we go to Harvey Dent, and he says 2 shots to the head, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And they're like, come on, man, that's not what we want to be about. So that gun, 22 caliber handgun, left at the scene. Handle tape, the serial number filed off, leaving the gun a stone cold trail like the killer wanted. A professional or someone who knew what they were doing. The baby bottle nipple for a silencer, cheap but effective. So Batman's here, doing his Batman thing, giving us the information. And don't forget the pumpkin. So they're trying to figure out, like, who's going to do this? Maroni, Carla, the sister? Like, she wouldn't kill her own son. And I love this image. Let's just take a moment of this image of Batman just in the shadows. You can barely see that he's there. Just the eyes and the outline of him with his little pointy cowl in his hand there. But he looks back and he notices something, but he's suddenly gone. And across the way, I guess on another building, is Catwoman. She's listening in, watching them, and Batman's there. And it's been a couple months since he last saw her. No fucking detail on the ground here, but you see Batman's shadow coming up behind her. I like that little detail there. And so he's like, I wonder where you've been. He's like, yeah, well, I have a $1 million bounty on my head. He's like, yeah, so do I. He's like, you knew I'd notice you spying on us. What do you want? She's like, I don't want to help, but I might be able to be helpful. He's like, well, and in return, he's like, if I help you, you can return the favor someday. He's like, no promises. He's like, I'll take that chance, but listen carefully. So she has some information, Catwoman does, to Batman. So we cut to Halloween night in Gotham City. You got Dent, you got Batman. So I always assumed that the holiday killer killed on Halloween. And I guess it did. It could have happened earlier in the day. It doesn't give a time. So now it's Halloween night. And Dent and Batman, they're in the shadows. And Dent's like, this better pay off. I said I was going to help the wife, hand out candy. He's like, why would Catwoman help us? I'm not sure, other than it's in her interests if the Romans' attentions focus elsewhere. And what did she tip him off? What did they find? Follow the money, she said. Falcone hasn't been able to launder his cash for a while now. He's been forced to stockpile it. So there's this fucking warehouse of just thousands and millions of dollars lying neatly stacked in cash. You can see how much based on like the scale with these two down here. And Dent kind of makes a mention like, if we were anybody else with a room of untraceable cash, he's like, yeah, but we're not. He's like, yeah, but how easy would it be? And Batman's like, don't. Yeah, well, you're a fucking millionaire, Bruce. Not all of us are. So they start gassing the place. They light a match. This flame, they left a trail going, and then they torch all the money and the warehouse again. Look how the little detail they put in for the buildings, but you see it's on a waterfront. And then Dent goes home, and it's it's Halloween, so kids are trick or treating. He goes to his wife, and he's like, "Oh, it was a good day. It was a night to remember." And as soon as he gets home, we're inside the interior of a car. And they're like listening in, like they got a listening device so they hear what's going on here, and someone says, do it. And the house explodes. I believe in Jim Gordon. I believe in Harvey Dent. I believe in Gotham City. And that's the end of this chapter. So there we go. Chapter 1 down. Halloween night. The long Halloween. It is setting up everything for this mystery. It's setting up the major players. This book is about a murder mystery, but it's also about the beginnings of a lot of like relationships Batman has with Gordon, with Harvey Dent, with Catwoman, and it's also going to focus on some of, like, he's going to have some run-ins with some of the classic villains. It establishes the crime and the mob boss, Falcone, he's been in the Dark Knight series, he's been in the new Batman series, he's in the Penguin series, and a bunch of characters. Like, this story heavily influenced a lot of movies and live-action stuff. And I'm pretty sure I think Christian Bale mentioned this in an interview once, too, this particular story. So it's about, there's a lot of stuff going on here other than just the murder mystery. But the murder mystery is very engaging for me. I had a very good time trying to figure it out. So there we go. First chapter, Halloween for the long Halloween. We'll pick up the next chapter in about a month around Thanksgiving. So there will be other videos in between there. So, don't think it's going to be like a month in between stuff before you hear from me. But thank you for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment. Don't spoil the story if you have read this, if you know who's who, of what and what's going to happen. Don't spoil it in the comments. For people who maybe are interested, I would recommend people just go buy this and read this. I think you'd really enjoy it. But if you want to like follow along with me as I reveal it to you, that'd be great. Just don't spoil anything in the comments. So thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you in the next video.